"That's forbidden," she whispered the rancher knew, and it sent shockwaves through the town. The sun hung low in the sky over Solara Ridge, painting the desert hills in shades of orange and gold. The wind whispered across the dry plains, carrying the scent of sagebrush and dust. Birds wheeled lazily above the town, their wings cutting the stillness of late afternoon. The small town, with its weathered wooden buildings and quiet streets, seemed almost frozen in time. Life here moved slowly, measured by the rising and setting sun, the rhythm of the seasons, and the work of the ranchers who had called this land home for generations. Mara adjusted her wide-brimmed hat and wiped sweat from her forehead. She had spent the afternoon in the old workshop, tinkering with an engine part that refused to cooperate. Her hands were greasy, her overalls streaked with dirt, but her eyes sparkled with curiosity and determination. She loved machines. They made sense in a way people sometimes did not. Her gaze drifted toward the edge of her family's ranch, where the desert stretched endlessly. Something had caught her eye, a faint glimmer buried partially in the sand. She frowned. Nothing in Solara Ridge glimmered naturally. Curious, she set down her tools and walked toward the spot, brushing aside the desert grass. Her fingers touched something smooth and cold. Mara froze. It was small, no bigger than her hand, and it hummed faintly like a soft heartbeat. Tiny grooves and patterns traced its surface, intricate and precise. She had never seen anything like it. "That's forbidden," she whispered, her voice trembling. She stepped back, holding the object carefully as if it might vanish if she dropped it. Mara's thoughts raced. In her mind, forbidden was not just a word, it was a warning. Something deep inside her knew that she had stumbled onto something far beyond her understanding. From behind, a shadow fell over her. "Mara!" The voice was deep, steady, and familiar. It belonged to Elias, the rancher who had raised her like a grandfather. He was tall, with broad shoulders and a weathered face, etched with lines from years of sun and wind. His dark eyes were sharp, but they softened when he looked at her. Elias' gaze fell on the device in her hands. His face paled slightly and his lips pressed into a thin line. He took a careful step closer. "Where did you find that?" he asked, his voice low. Mara swallowed hard, glancing nervously around. "Just buried near the edge of the ranch. I don't know what it is, but it's humming. It feels alive." Elias nodded slowly, though his mind was racing. He had hoped this day would never come. For decades he had protected the town, keeping its secrets hidden. And now one of the town's own had discovered something that could change everything. "Give it to me," he said gently. Mara hesitated, then handed the device to him. As soon as he touched it, a faint glow pulsed across his weathered hands, warm and tingling. He studied the object closely. This is not from here," he murmured. "It's not from Earth." Mara's eyes widened. "What do you mean? It's just sitting here in the dirt." Elias' gaze drifted toward the horizon, toward the distant hills that framed the town. "Not everything buried in the ground belongs to us, Mara. Some things belong to the past, and some things belong to the stars." Mara's curiosity overpowered her fear. "The stars?" she asked. "You mean aliens?" Elias' lips twitched in a faint, grim smile. "You could call them that. Long ago, humans were underestimated. Others in the galaxy thought we were weak, simple, unremarkable. But our ancestors, your ancestors, built protections, hidden protections. This device is one of them." Mara's hands shook. "Protections for what?" "Everything," Elias said, his eyes darkening. "For anything that might threaten humanity." For a moment, the wind seemed to pause, as if the desert itself were holding its breath. Mara could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. Everything she had believed about her quiet, simple town suddenly seemed small and fragile compared to what Elias was telling her. I don't understand," she whispered. Elias sighed, running a hand through his thick gray hair. "You will, Mara, but not here, not now. Come inside the barn. We need to talk where no one else can hear us." They moved quickly, Mara clutching the device carefully in her hands. Inside the barn, the air smelled of hay and oil, of 100 years of ranch work. Elias closed the door behind them and leaned against it. "Sit," he said, gesturing to a worn wooden crate. Mara obeyed. He studied her face for a long moment. "Mara, this town, our people, even this land, it's not just ordinary. We have secrets here, secrets kept for generations. And some of those secrets are dangerous if they fall into the wrong hands." Mara's eyes shone with a mix of fear and excitement. "Then, what do we do?" Elias held up the device, letting it pulse gently in the dim barn light. "First, we keep it safe. Then we learn what it can do. I've spent my life preparing for a day like this, Mara. You are clever, inventive, brave. You may be the only one who can help me understand it fully." Mara's heart raced. She had always dreamed of adventure, of discovering something amazing beyond the boundaries of her town. And now it was right here in her hands. They worked silently for hours, examining the device. It pulsed softly, a heartbeat of light and energy. Elias explained what little he knew. It was part of an ancient system designed to protect humanity from external threats, left behind by a civilization far older than anyone in Solara Ridge could imagine. Mara listened, wide-eyed. Every word filled her with awe and wonder. She had never imagined her quiet life on the ranch could connect to something so vast, so important. And yet, the weight of responsibility settled on her shoulders. "Do you think the others will find out?" she asked, glancing toward the barn door. Elias shook his head. "Not unless we let them. This is our secret for now. The town must remain unaware. Some things are too dangerous for ordinary people to know." Mara nodded. She understood. And even though fear fluttered in her chest, she felt a thrill of excitement she had never known before. Outside, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the desert. The first stars appeared, small pinpricks of light in the vast sky. Mara looked at them and wondered how many secrets the universe held, waiting to be discovered. Elias stood by the barn door, watching the horizon. He knew this was only the beginning. The device had awakened something, and the quiet life of Solara Ridge was about to change forever. For Mara, the whisper of "that's forbidden" was no longer just a warning. It was the first step into a world far larger and more extraordinary than she had ever imagined. And with Elias by her side, she felt ready to face whatever mysteries the stars might send to their small town. The desert night deepened, and the wind carried the faint hum of the device across the plains. Somewhere beyond the hills, unseen eyes were surely watching, and the secrets of Solara Ridge were beginning to stir. The next morning, the sun rose slowly over Solara Ridge, spilling golden light across the town. The streets were quiet, the wind soft, and the desert seemed peaceful. But inside the barn, Mara and Elias were anything but calm. Mara sat cross-legged on the wooden floor, the device resting carefully between them. Its faint glow pulsed like a heartbeat, and she couldn't help but reach out to touch it. Each time her fingers brushed the smooth surface, a wave of warmth spread through her hands, and she felt connected, as if the device could sense her curiosity. Elias watched her closely. "Don't touch it too much," he warned. "We don't fully understand what it can do yet, but I can teach you what I know." Mara leaned forward eagerly. "Please, Elias, I want to know everything." He nodded. "Then listen carefully. Long ago, humans were not as powerful as they are now. We were underestimated by the galaxy. Others thought we were too small, too fragile, too ordinary. But your ancestors knew the truth. They knew humans could adapt, think, and survive in ways that no other species could. And they created something to prove it." Mara frowned. "Something? You mean the device?" "Yes," Elias said. "This device is one of many. It's part of a system designed to protect humanity, to hide us and defend us if something from the stars ever came looking for trouble." Mara's eyes widened. "Protect humanity? From aliens?" Elias nodded slowly. "Yes, but not the kind you see in stories. Not monsters or invaders that come running in ships like in old movies. These beings are intelligent, curious, and cautious. They watch, they study, and they test. Our ancestors built a system to keep humans safe and to make them strong when the time came. And now, Mara, the time is coming. Mara felt a shiver run down her spine. The quiet life she had always known, the simple routine of fixing engines, helping on the ranch, and walking in the desert, felt suddenly fragile like a thin layer over something much bigger. "Why me?" she asked softly. "Why show me this?" Elias leaned back against a crate, his arms crossed. "Because you have the mind and the courage to understand it. You are clever, inventive, and fearless in ways most people are. You can see possibilities where others see only problems. Your ancestors would have chosen someone like you." Mara swallowed hard, feeling both honored and frightened. "And what do we do with it?" "We learn," Elias said. "We discover what it can do, how it works, and how to use it to protect the town and eventually the world. But first you must understand the history." He stood and moved to a dusty shelf at the back of the barn. He lifted an old leather-bound book, its cover faded and cracked. "This belonged to your great-grandfather," Elias said, handing it to her. "He was one of the keepers of the secrets. He recorded what he knew, what he discovered, and what he feared. Every generation has added a little more, but the truth has always been hidden." Mara opened the book carefully. The pages were yellowed and delicate. Inside, sketches of strange machines, diagrams of glowing circuits, and notes written in a careful hand filled the pages. Symbols she didn't understand danced across the margins. "These are designs?" she asked. "Yes," Elias said. "Designs for devices like the one you found. But also designs for traps, defenses, and ways to confuse those who would seek to harm humanity. Your great-grandfather and the others knew that intelligence alone would not be enough. Humans had to be clever, adaptable, and unpredictable. That is our greatest strength." Mara ran her fingers over the pages. "I've always thought machines were interesting, but this is incredible. Why did they hide it all here in Solara Ridge?" Elias smiled faintly. "Because the town is ordinary on the surface. The world looks at Solara Ridge and sees a simple, quiet place. That is exactly what makes it perfect for hiding something extraordinary. No one would suspect humans here have secrets that could rival the stars." Mara looked up from the book. "So our ancestors were smart enough to trick the galaxy." "Not trick," Elias corrected. "Prepare. Humans can be underestimated, but they are resilient. We can solve problems, adapt, and create solutions no one else would think of. That is why your ancestors built these devices, to protect us until the time was right. And now, that time is coming." The device pulsed again, faintly, as if responding to their conversation. Mara felt a thrill of excitement mixed with fear. It seemed alive in a way she couldn't explain. "Elias," she said, "how do we know it's safe?" "We don't," he admitted. "But we can be careful. That is what humans do best. We study, we experiment, we adapt, and we never give up no matter how impossible the problem seems." Mara nodded, determination growing in her chest. "Then let's study it. Let's figure out what it can do." Elias smiled. "Good, that is the spirit of our people. That is what makes humans remarkable." For the next few hours they worked quietly. Mara sketched the device, noting its patterns and grooves. Elias shared what he knew about energy flow, light pulses, and resonance. They experimented carefully, adjusting dials and pressing buttons, always cautious. The device hummed softly, responding to their touch, almost as if it were aware they were trying to understand it. As the sun climbed higher, a shadow fell across the barn floor. Mara looked up to see a hawk circling above the ranch, its sharp eyes scanning the ground. She shivered slightly. Out there, beyond the hills, other eyes might be watching too. The device was not just an object, it was a signal, a spark that could awaken curiosity or caution from distant places. Elias noticed her glance. "Do not fear what you cannot see," he said. Humans have always faced the unknown, and yet we survive, we adapt, that is our power. Mara considered his words. It was true, her family had survived droughts, storms, and harsh winters. The town had survived because the people worked together, because they were clever and resourceful. Perhaps that same cleverness could extend far beyond the desert, into the stars. Hours passed, and Mara began to notice something strange. The device seemed to respond more strongly to her presence than to Elia's. When she touched it, the glow pulsed brighter, and soft vibrations ran through the floor beneath her. She looked at Elia's. "Do you think it chooses me?" she asked. Elias considered this carefully. "It is possible. Your ancestors designed these devices for people who could understand them, people who could think in ways others cannot. Perhaps it recognized something in you." Mara's heart raced. She had always wanted to do something extraordinary, to leave a mark on the world beyond the ranch. Now, it seemed, the opportunity had come to her in the most unexpected way. The day wore on, and Mara grew more confident in handling the device. But just as they were about to take a break, a distant sound reached their ears, a soft humming in the air, faint but unmistakable. Mara froze, listening carefully. "What is that?" she whispered. Elia's eyes narrowed. "I don't know yet, but it is not a sound we make. Stay calm." The hum grew slightly louder, almost like a vibration in the earth. Mara felt a shiver run down her spine. Whatever the device was, it was not meant to remain hidden forever. Someone was aware of it. "We need to be careful," Elias said. "No one can know we have this." "Not yet, not until we understand it fully." Mara nodded. She felt a mix of fear and excitement, but also a strange sense of purpose. For the first time in her life, she felt truly important. She was not just a girl in a quiet town, she was part of something much bigger, something extraordinary. As night fell, Mara and Elias sat in the barn, the device glowing softly between them. The stars blinked in the clear desert sky, countless points of light that hinted at worlds beyond their own. Mara wondered what secrets the universe held, and whether humans were ready for them. Elias spoke quietly, almost to himself. "The galaxy has underestimated us for too long. They have not seen what humans can do when pushed, when challenged. They will learn eventually." Mara smiled, a spark of determination lighting her eyes. "Then let's make sure we are ready for that day." Outside, the desert wind blew gently, carrying the faint hum of the device across the plains. The secret of Solara Ridge was awakening, and for the first time, Mara understood that the ordinary life of the town was about to change forever. She did not know what awaited them, or how the world beyond the hills would respond. But one thing was certain. Humans had always faced the impossible, and humans had always survived. And now, with the device and their ingenuity, they were ready to face something even greater. The stars above seemed to shine a little brighter that night, as if acknowledging the beginning of a new chapter in humanity's story. A chapter that started in the quiet town of Solara Ridge, with a girl, a rancher, and a device that held the promise of the extraordinary. The next morning, Solara Ridge awoke to a sky brushed with pink and gold. The town seemed peaceful, quiet as always. Cows grazed lazily on the outskirts, and a few townsfolk wandered the dusty streets, chatting softly. But beneath the calm surface, a tension hummed, subtle and unseen, like the quiet before a storm. Mara woke early, her thoughts still swirling around the device. Last night, the glow and the hum had seemed almost alive, as if the object had a mind of its own. She touched it now gently, feeling the familiar pulse. Elias was already in the barn, checking his old tools and making notes on a small clipboard. "Good morning," he said without looking up. "Sleep well?" "Not really," Mara admitted. "I keep thinking about what you said about being ready, about the galaxy underestimating us." Elias straightened and met her gaze. "Humans have always been underestimated," he said firmly. "That's what makes us strong. We adapt, we solve problems, we survive. And when others think we are weak, that is when we shine. Mara nodded. I want to help. I want to understand it to make sure we're ready. Elias smiled faintly. Good, today we learn more, but you must be patient. The device does not reveal everything at once. It tests us, it challenges us, and sometimes it warns us. Mara glanced at the glowing object. Warns us? Yes, Elias said. Some signals are not meant to be ignored. They spent the morning experimenting cautiously. Mara adjusted dials while Elias traced faint lines and grooves across the surface. The device pulsed softly in response, like a heartbeat, reacting to their actions and thoughts. It seemed to respond to intention, not just touch. The more focus they gave it, the stronger its glow became, and small sparks of light danced around the room. By noon, they had mapped patterns of light and vibration. Mara realized that the device was not only a key to something larger, it was also a sensor. It reacted not just to their touch, but to changes in the air, the subtle shifts of energy around it. Then suddenly the barn door creaked. Mara and Elias froze, glancing toward the entrance. Nothing, only the wind and the gentle hum of the device. I thought I heard something, Mara whispered. Elias shook his head. The desert plays tricks on the ears. Focus on the device. But the sensation did not go away. Over the next hour, Mara noticed something strange. The hum had grown slightly louder, sharper. It was no longer soft and gentle, it carried a resonance, like a vibration in the earth itself. Mara knelt closer to the device, feeling the pulse travel through the floorboards. Elias, she said, unease creeping into her voice. Something is happening, it feels different. Elias frowned, his hands hovering over the device. Let me see. He placed his fingers lightly on the surface and the glow flared briefly. It's sensing something, he said, his voice low. Something approaching from far away. Mara's heart skipped. Approaching from outside. Yes, not from the town. Not from any human nearby. Something beyond. They moved outside, stepping into the warm desert air. The sun had climbed higher and the sky stretched endless and clear. Mara scanned the horizon, but there was nothing, only the rolling hills, the scattered desert shrubs, and the quiet town beyond. Elias pointed toward the hills. See those faint shadows near the ridge? Mara squinted. At first, she saw nothing. Then, almost imperceptibly, she noticed a shimmer like heat waves rising in the distance. But it was not heat. The shimmer moved with a strange rhythm, almost deliberate, almost alive. They're coming, Elias said quietly. Not to harm yet, just to observe. But they've noticed the device. Mara's mind raced. Observe, but why, and how do they even know it exists? Elias shook his head. We cannot know everything. That is why humans must always be clever. They will not attack openly. They will test. They will probe. And we must be ready. For the rest of the afternoon, they monitored the device. Mara sketched its responses while Elias recorded measurements, mapping pulses of light and vibration. They discovered something remarkable. The device could send signals, tiny bursts of energy that could travel long distances, but only when activated with careful precision. It's like a beacon, Mara said. It can reach somewhere. Elias nodded. Or send a message. Not just to us, but to whoever, or whatever, is watching. The device was designed to communicate, and it seems it has already done so. Mara felt a thrill. Humans had always been underestimated, but here they were, using intelligence and creativity to face the unknown. She realized that the small town of Solara Ridge, its simple life, and even its quiet ranches were part of something far larger, a hidden legacy of human ingenuity. As the sun dipped toward the horizon, a soft glow appeared in the distance. Mara gasped. At first it looked like a star, then like a ripple in the air, a shimmer of light that grew brighter and moved closer. The device pulsed in her hands, reacting to the approaching signal. They're coming closer, Elias said calmly, though Mara could see the tension in his eyes. But not to attack. Yet this is a test. Mara's imagination ran wild. She thought of the stories Elias had told about humans being underestimated by other beings in the galaxy. "They think we're weak," she whispered, "but they'll see we're not." Elias smiled faintly. "Exactly. Humans survive, humans adapt, and humans can do what no one expects." The shimmer grew into a soft glow that hovered above the hills. From their vantage point on the ranch, it looked almost like a floating light, shifting and moving with intelligence. Mara felt a mixture of fear and awe. She had never imagined anything like this existed, yet here it was, responding to them, acknowledging them. "What do we do?" Mara asked. Elias considered the situation carefully. "We observe, we record, and we prepare. Panic is useless. Our strength is our mind, our creativity, and our patience. We must use all three." For the next few hours, they watched the glowing presence, noting its patterns, its movements, and how the device reacted. Mara realized that it seemed curious, almost playful, probing the air with pulses of light. It was intelligent but cautious. It did not rush. It did not strike. It was testing them just as Elias had said. As night fell, the glow dimmed slightly, settling on a ridge beyond the ranch. The device pulsed softly in Mara's hands, like a heartbeat echoing across the desert. For the first time, Mara felt a deep connection, not just to the device, but to the unknown beings watching them. "They're not here to destroy us," she said quietly. "They're learning or waiting to see what we'll do." Elias nodded. "Yes, and humans, we always find a way. That is our gift, our ingenuity, our courage, our ability to adapt. The galaxy has underestimated us for too long. But now it will see what humans can do." Mara's thoughts raced. She had dreamed of adventure, of leaving the quiet town behind, of discovering something extraordinary. Now it was real. Not in stories or imagination, but here in the desert, with a device pulsing in her hands and lights hovering on the hills beyond. She felt a surge of determination. "Then let's show them," she whispered. "Let's prove that humans are more than they think." Elias placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "We will, but carefully, always carefully. That is how humans survive and thrive. Patience, observation, and cleverness. That is our way." Mara nodded, her eyes fixed on the distant glow. The desert night had arrived, cool and quiet, but alive with possibility. Somewhere beyond the hills, unseen eyes were watching, learning, and testing. And in the quiet town of Solara Ridge, two humans, one young, one experienced, were ready to rise to the challenge. The stars above shimmered with brilliance, as if acknowledging the beginning of something extraordinary. The device pulsed, the glow on the hills shimmered, and Mara understood the truth. Humans were underestimated, yes. But now, humans had the chance to show what they could do. And when the galaxy learned, it would not forget. The desert morning was calm, but a tension hung in the air. Mara and Elias stood at the edge of the ranch, eyes fixed on the distant glow that had appeared the night before. The light shimmered softly, hovering above the hills like it was alive, intelligent, and curious. But Mara no longer felt fear, only a growing sense of determination. "This time," Elias said, "we are not just observing, we will respond, carefully, cleverly, and together." Mara nodded. "I'm ready." They returned to the barn, bringing the device with them. Elias explained that its patterns of pulses and light were a kind of communication. "It reacts to signals," he said. "We can send responses, not to fight but to show intelligence. To demonstrate that humans are clever, adaptive, and resourceful. That is how we will protect ourselves." Mara studied the device, tracing the grooves with her fingers. "So, it's like a puzzle," she said. "We have to figure out the right signals to send and then see how they react." "Exactly," Elias said. "Humans have always used intelligence to survive. This is just another way to do it. The galaxy has underestimated us for too long, but we will prove them wrong." For hours, they experimented. Mara discovered that by adjusting small dials and pressing the grooves in certain sequences, the device sent pulses of light into the sky. Elias explained that the device could amplify and direct energy, bending it across long distances. When they activated it, the glow on the hills responded, pulsing in return. Mara felt a thrill of excitement. "It's like it understands us," she said. Elias smiled. "It is intelligent, but it will test us. The key is to stay clever and adaptable. Observe, respond, and stay calm. That is human strength." By midday, they had mapped a simple pattern, pulses of energy that could travel silently and invisibly across the desert. When they sent the first message, the glow on the hills shifted and flickered, almost as if examining their work. Mara felt her pulse quicken. It was working. "They're learning," she whispered. "Yes," Elias said, "and so are we." Over the next few hours, they refined their system. Mara realized that their ingenuity could be applied beyond the device itself. They used ranch machinery to create signals that complemented the pulses of light. A simple windmill, a few mirrors, and a careful arrangement of solar panels amplified the device's energy and added new patterns. Mara stepped back and looked at the setup, her heart swelling with pride. "We're humans. We're using everything we know, from engines to mirrors, to communicate. It's brilliant," Elias chuckled. "Humans are always brilliant when we have to be. We solve problems no one else expects. That is why we survive and why we will continue to survive." By late afternoon, the glow on the hills shifted dramatically. It split into several smaller lights, moving in coordinated patterns across the horizon. Mara gasped. The beings, or whatever they were clearly intelligent, responding to their clever signals. "They're not attacking," Mara said. "They're engaging, testing us." "Yes," Elias said, "and humans respond. That is what makes us extraordinary. We do not panic, we think, we adapt. We act." Mara realized something remarkable. The town, the ranch, the simple life they had always known, it was not just survival, it was preparation. Generations of humans had faced impossible challenges, and each time they had used their minds to overcome them. Now that same ingenuity was being called upon in a challenge far beyond their understanding. She adjusted a dial on the device, sending a new sequence of pulses. The glow on the hills mirrored them almost immediately, but with subtle variations. Mara grinned. "They're responding in new ways. They're learning from us too." Elias nodded. "Exactly. Intelligence recognizes intelligence. And humans, we have the advantage. We are creative, adaptable, and courageous. They may be strong, but humans are clever." As the sun dipped toward the horizon, they decided to take their experiment one step further. Mara had an idea. Using mirrors and lenses, she amplified the device's light and reflected it across the hills, creating patterns of brilliance that danced like fire across the desert. The glow on the hills flickered and shifted in response, almost like it was playing a game with them. Mara laughed. "It's working, they're interacting with us." Elias smiled. "That is the way humans thrive. We do not just react, we create, we invent. We turn challenges into opportunities." Over the course of the evening, the interaction became more complex. Mara and Elias refined their signals, sending sequences that tested the glow's responses. Each time, the lights responded with increasing complexity, showing curiosity, intelligence, and perhaps even admiration. Mara realized something extraordinary. Humans were not just defending themselves, they were showing that they could match intelligence with intelligence. In a quiet town on a quiet planet, humans were proving their brilliance to the galaxy. The townspeople began to notice the strange lights over the hills. At first, they thought it was a trick of the setting sun. Then, the shimmer became unmistakable, and people whispered in awe. Some came to the edge of the town to watch. Mara explained nothing, only letting the device glow and the mirrors reflect the pulses of light. By nightfall, the display had become breathtaking. Pulses of light danced across the hills in patterns of brilliance. The glow shifted, split, and swirled, responding to Mara and Elia's signals with a level of intelligence that left them both amazed. "This is incredible," Mara said, her voice barely above a whisper. We're showing them who humans are, not just survival but creativity." "Ingenuity, intelligence," Elias nodded. "Yes, this is humanity at its best. We face the unknown and we respond. We do not panic, we do not run. We adapt, we learn, and we rise to the challenge." Mara felt a surge of pride. She had always known humans could be clever, but seeing it reflected in the device's pulses, mirrored across the hills, made it real. Humans were underestimated, but no more. The glow on the hills finally began to settle, almost as if acknowledging their efforts. Mara and Elias stood in silence, watching the intelligent dance of light, understanding that they had taken the first step in a larger conversation with the galaxy. Elias placed a hand on Mara's shoulder. "You see, Mara, humans are not just survivors. We are thinkers, inventors, and problem solvers. That is our strength. That is why we endure." Mara smiled, her eyes shining with determination. "Then we'll keep going. We'll keep showing them. We'll prove humans are extraordinary." The desert night deepened, and the stars above twinkled in quiet admiration. The town of Solara Ridge remained asleep, unaware of the brilliance unfolding on the hills beyond. Mara and Elias knew the truth. Humans had faced the impossible for generations, and once again they were rising to meet the challenge. As the glowing lights pulsed and danced one final time for the night, Mara whispered softly, almost to herself, "We're not just surviving, we're showing the universe who we are." Elias nodded. "Yes, and the galaxy will remember." The device pulsed gently in Mara's hands, as if in agreement, echoing the rhythm of human ingenuity, intelligence, and courage. In that quiet moment, under the endless stars, Mara understood something profound. Humans may be underestimated, but when challenged, they shine brighter than anyone could imagine. And somewhere beyond the hills, the Watchers, intelligent, curious, and cautious, had witnessed it all. Humans had struck back. The desert morning arrived calm and still, the sky a soft canvas of pink and gold. The town of Solara Ridge slept quietly, unaware of the extraordinary events unfolding on the hills beyond. But for Mara and Elias, sleep had been impossible. The glowing device rested between them on a sturdy wooden table in the barn, pulsing softly as if alive. Mara ran her fingers lightly across its surface. "Last night it was incredible," she whispered. "They responded to everything we did." Elias nodded, his eyes reflecting pride and concern in equal measure. "Yes, they are intelligent, cautious, and now aware of us. But remember, Mara, this is only the beginning. Humans have proven ingenuity before, but the galaxy is vast, and our path is just starting." Mara's excitement battled with apprehension. "Do you think they understand us, understand what humans can do?" "They are beginning to," Elias said. "And that is enough for now. The galaxy underestimates humans far too often. But when the time comes, our ingenuity will speak louder than any words or signals ever could." They spent the morning studying the device, refining the pulses and light patterns, and creating more complex sequences. Mirrors, lenses, and carefully positioned solar panels amplified the device's energy, turning the barn into a small control room. Mara adjusted a series of dials, watching as the device responded with bright pulses that illuminated the dusty rafters. "It's like it's alive," Mara said softly. "Every time we make a change, it reacts, not like a machine, more like it's thinking." "That is the legacy of our ancestors," Elias said. "They built these devices to challenge intelligence, to recognize it, and to reward ingenuity. And now, Mara, we are learning from it too." By midday, the first signs of activity appeared beyond the hills. The soft glow from the previous night had multiplied into a web of shimmering lights, moving with purpose and coordination. Mara's eyes widened. "They're not just observing anymore," she said. "They're interacting on a new level. They're learning from us." Yes, Elias said quietly, and so are we learning from them. Intelligence recognizes intelligence, Mara. That is the gift of humanity. We can think, adapt, and create solutions no one else would expect. The day stretched on as Mara and Elias experimented with increasingly intricate patterns. The device hummed and glowed, sending pulses across the desert that danced like ribbons of light. The lights on the hills shifted, split, and intertwined in response, almost as if the beings beyond were studying every human decision. Mara marveled at the realization. "We're not just defending ourselves," she said. "We're proving something. We're showing that humans are clever, inventive, extraordinary." Elias smiled. "Exactly. Humans survive because we think, because we create, because we do not give up. That is what the galaxy has underestimated for centuries." By late afternoon, a new development appeared. The lights beyond the hills formed a shape, a pattern that seemed deliberate, almost like a symbol. Mara stared in awe. "They're communicating," she breathed. "They're not threatening, they're talking to us." "Yes," Elias said, his voice steady but full of wonder. "And humans will answer, but carefully, wisely, and cleverly. That is how we thrive." Mara adjusted the device, creating a sequence of pulses and mirrored reflections that formed a simple yet intelligent pattern. The glow beyond the hills responded immediately, splitting and weaving in an intricate dance that mirrored her design. The interaction continued for hours, each sequence more complex than the last, each one a conversation without words, a demonstration of intelligence, creativity, and adaptation. As night fell, the town's residents began to notice. Lights shimmered across the distant hills, moving in patterns so intricate they seemed deliberate. People whispered, gathered at windows, and stepped into the streets in awe. None could understand what was happening, but everyone felt the sense of something extraordinary unfolding. Mara and Elias worked tirelessly, guiding the device's pulses, adjusting mirrors, and refining their signals. Mara realized that humans were showing a remarkable quality, one the galaxy had underestimated for centuries. They were not just surviving, they were thinking, adapting, and creating solutions no one else could imagine. "They're acknowledging us," Mara said quietly. "I think they respect what humans can do." "Yes," Elias said. "Intelligence recognizes ingenuity. That is humanity's greatest strength. Others may be stronger, faster, or more advanced, but humans can solve problems, adapt, and thrive in ways no one expects." The night deepened, and the sky above Solara Ridge sparkled with stars. The lights beyond the hills continued to shift and respond, a silent acknowledgement of human brilliance. Mara felt a swell of pride. The quiet town she had always called home had become a stage for an extraordinary display of intelligence and creativity. Elias turned to her, his eyes reflecting the glow of the device. "You see, Mara, humans are underestimated, yes, but that does not define us. It never has. And now we are showing the galaxy who we are." Mara smiled, determination burning in her chest. "Then we'll keep going. We'll continue to learn, to adapt, and to show them that humans are extraordinary." For the first time, she understood the truth of her ancestors' legacy. The quiet life of Solara Ridge, the simple ranches, and the generations of clever, resourceful humans had all prepared them for this moment. The device, the lights, and the glowing interactions were a test, but humans were proving themselves capable, clever, and unafraid. The next morning, the glow beyond the hills was brighter, more coordinated, and remarkably intricate. Mara and Elias realized that their efforts had sparked recognition. The beings observing them were no longer merely curious, they were impressed. Mara felt a rush of excitement. "Do you think they understand that humans can adapt?" she asked. Elias nodded. "They are beginning to. Humans are remarkable when challenged. They think, create, and rise to the occasion. That is what we are showing them." Throughout the day, Mara and Elias continued their work, refining the device, sending new sequences and creating complex patterns of light that the observers responded to with equal intelligence. Each interaction reinforced a simple truth. Humans were underestimated, yes, but their ingenuity was undeniable. As night fell, the display reached a breathtaking crescendo. Pulses of light danced across the hills, split into intricate patterns and formed shapes that seemed almost like symbols of understanding. Mara and Elias stood together, watching, feeling the weight of the moment. "We've done it," Mara whispered. "We've shown them humans are extraordinary." "Yes," Elias said, placing a hand on her shoulder, "and this is only the beginning. The galaxy may watch now, but they will remember. They will see what humans can do when faced with the unknown." Mara realized that the quiet town of Solara Ridge, the simple life of the ranch, and the generations of resourceful humans had all led to this moment. Humans had risen to meet the challenge, using intelligence, creativity, and courage to face the unknown, and in doing so had proven their strength. The desert night was alive with light, pulsating, shimmering, and responding to the human touch. Mara felt a deep sense of connection, not just to the device, but to the legacy of ingenuity and courage that had been passed down for generations. Humans had survived countless challenges, and now they had risen to face something far greater, earning recognition in ways no one could have imagined. Elias looked out over the hills, eyes reflecting the glowing lights. The galaxy may have underestimated humans for centuries, but now they will remember, and we will continue to prove ourselves again and again because that is what humans do best. Mara nodded, determination blazing in her eyes. "We'll keep learning, we'll keep adapting, and we'll show them every time that humans are extraordinary." As the stars above Solara Ridge sparkled and the glowing device pulsed softly between them, Mara understood a profound truth. Humanity's greatest strength was not in brute force, not in speed or size, but in intelligence, creativity, and courage. Humans could face the impossible, adapt to challenges, and rise above expectations. Somewhere beyond the hills, the observers remained, intelligent and cautious, yet undeniably impressed. Mara and Elias knew that humanity had made its mark. The quiet town, the simple ranch, and the resourceful humans within it had sent a message that could never be forgotten. The device pulsed one last time for the night, as if acknowledging the humans' ingenuity and courage. Mara smiled, a thrill of pride and hope filling her chest. Solara Ridge was no longer just a quiet town, it was the birthplace of a legacy, a reminder that humans were clever, adaptable, and extraordinary. And somewhere beyond the hills, the galaxy had taken notice. Mara whispered softly, almost to herself, "We are not just surviving, we are showing the universe who we are." Elias nodded. "And that, Mara, is the legacy of humanity. Never underestimated, always remarkable, and forever extraordinary." The stars shimmered, the desert night hummed softly, and the device pulsed, a quiet heartbeat echoing across the plains. Solara Ridge had proven its place in the galaxy, and humanity's story had begun a new chapter, one of brilliance, courage, and unshakable ingenuity.